You know that thrilling moment when you spot an ordinary coin in your pocket and suddenly realize it could be worth a small fortune? Today we're zeroing in on a handful of quarters that many folks walk right past. Yet each one hides an unexpected story and eye-popping auction numbers. Think of that change jar in your closet, the one you haven't looked at in years. What if I told you it might hold a quarter that sold for more than your morning latte bill, multiplied by 100? Stick around as we kick things off with a quarter from 1997. And by the end, you'll be itching to sort through every roll you can find. Let's dive into the 1997 Washington quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The 1990s might not scream rare coin at first glance, but this particular issue has a few quirks worth knowing. In 1997, the Philadelphia facility was transitioning equipment and experimenting with different die polishing techniques that created a handful of noticeable die cracks and, in even rarer cases, die breaks that produced raised lines across George Washington's profile or along the rim. These aren't the classic double die errors we all learned to love in textbooks, but they're subtle, eye-catching, and genuine conversation starters. What really sets the 1997 Philadelphia quarter apart is that small batch of pieces with a diagonal die crack running from about 2 o'clock down through Washington's cheek. At first glance you might think it's just a scratch or some stray debris, but hold it up to a strong light and compare it to a flawless example, and you'll see the raised metal ridge that shouldn't be there. Collectors hunt for these because they represent a kind of snapshot of the mint's inner workings that year. Estimates suggest fewer than a few hundred of these cracked die coins have surfaced in high enough grades to interest serious buyers. When it comes to market value, you're looking at quite a range. A circulated 1997 P quarter in typical G2VG condition, even with a minor die crack, might fetch anywhere from $5 to $10, far above face value but still pocket change by numismatic standards. Move up to a U50, about uncirculated, and you might see prices in the $25 to $40 neighborhood. But once you hit MS65, mint state, and above, those rare cracked die specimens can command $200 or more, depending on the prominence and position of the crack. And the real showstoppers, MS67 pieces with a sharp, centrally located break, have crossed the $500 mark at auction within the past couple of years. That's the power of condition plus rarity. Digging deeper, there's an even more elusive variety, the 1997 P three-legged die crack. It earned its nickname because the metal split extends along 3 distinct paths, almost like spider legs fanning out across Washington's bust. Only a handful of these have been documented, and in circulated grades they've sold for roughly $150 to $250. But in mint state, just a single example known to the collector community smashed expectations, going for just over $1,000 at a 2023 regional show. Not bad for a coin you'd otherwise roll through the snack machine. Beyond those die breaks, another aspect makes this quarter intriguing. The metal composition is identical to all clad quarters of the era. Copper-nickel sandwich around a copper core, but the plating thickness varied slightly from batch to batch. That means some 1997 quarters have marginally more silver-colored alloy showing through, giving them a subtly whiter look. It's not enough to call them silver quarters, of course, but under certain lighting they gleam differently. If you're flipping through pocket change, keep an eye out for specimens with unusually bright fields and devices. Those can sometimes correlate with stronger strike quality and higher collector grades. Every coin tells a story, and the 1997 quarter has a few chapters worth recalling. For instance, one collector once shared how he found an MS65 cracked die example glued to the dashboard of an old Chevy truck he bought at auction. The previous owner hadn't noticed the error. It was just part of the change stash he kept for tolls. That coin ended up being the most valuable in the truck, and it flew off to a Florida dealer for $225. Then there's the tale of the three-legged quarter discovered in a cashier's till during a routine teller's strike sale. Proof that you never know when destiny will hand you a rare find. Of course, condition is king. A perfectly preserved, full-detail MS67 cracked die quarter is a blue-chip piece, sure to anchor any modern-era collection. But even a well-worn VF20 with a sturdy, noticeable crack line can be a delightful surprise in your change pocket. You'll pay handsomely less for that VF piece, often under $50, but you still get the bragging rights of knowing you own something off the beaten path. So next time you're at the grocery store or grabbing a coffee, don't just glance at your change. Look closely at the rim and Washington's profile. That tiny raised ridge could be the key to a conversion from spare change to serious investment. And while the world hunts for silver dollars and mint state halves, we know the real treasures can hide in the more recent issues, like our 1997 quarter with its little secrets from the mint floor. Now that you've got the lowdown on what makes this quarter tick, from its subtle die breaks to condition-driven price swings, we're ready to move on to our second featured rarity. But first, how many of you are combing your change jars already? Stay tuned, because up next we'll uncover the hidden story behind a 1967 quarter that looks ordinary at first glance, but packs a surprising punch once you know what to look for. Shifting gears from the quirks of the 1997 Philadelphia strike, let's wind the clock back 3 decades to the 1967 Washington quarter, a date that at first glance feels utterly commonplace, yet in the right hands can unlock unexpected value. By 1967, circulation strikes of quarters were rolling off presses in staggering numbers thanks to coin shortages during the Vietnam War. The U.S. Mint removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters in 1965, leaving clad coinage, but the sheer volume produced for everyday use made any surviving gem-quality pieces or subtle anomalies all the more compelling for collectors. The origin story begins with the broader context of mid-1960s America. The Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver, and by 1967 the mint was cranking out roughly 1 billion quarters per year across Philadelphia and Denver. No mint marks appeared on those Philadelphia coins until 1980, so any unclad 1967 quarter lacking a D at the reverse's base hails from Philly by default. Denver's D-mint issues are identified by the small d under the wreath. What makes 1967 interesting isn't a headline error like a missing mint mark. That would be illegal by then, but rather the survival of high-grade pieces and a handful of die anomalies that slipped through quality control. Among collectors, the DCM finish, deep cameo-proof style reflectivity, occurs rarely on circulation strikes of this era. In a typical 1967 quarter, the fields are frosty, and the devices, Washington's bust and the eagle, are satin-like. Yet a few pieces showcase unusually mirrored fields and frosted devices, almost as if they emerged from the proof press by accident. These dual-finish, cameo-like circulation strikes can command a premium because they mimic the standards of proof coins without the S-mint mark in proof packaging. Of the tens of millions produced, perhaps a few hundred or fewer display that cameo contrast when graded by experts. Look closely at the lettering on a sharp, well-preserved 1967 quarter, and you might even spot a light cud, a small blob of metal that accumulates when part of the die fractures and doesn't fully break off. On some examples, this cud appears at the rim below the eagle's right talon, creating a rounded lump that shouldn't be there. It's subtle enough that non-collectors almost always mistake it for a die chip or post-mint damage, but in reality, it's a genuine die error frozen in copper-nickel clad. These cuds rarely exceed a few millimeters in size, and when graded at MS64 or higher, coins with that feature routinely command 2 to 3 times the value of their flawless counterparts. Speaking of value, let's talk numbers. A typical circulated 1967 D quarter and fine, F12, grade fetches mere face value plus a modest premium, usually around 50 cents to $1 on the open market. Step up to extremely fine YF40, and you're looking at $2 to $4, depending on eye appeal. But once you venture into almost uncirculated EU50 territory, prices jump to $5 to $8 for standard issues. From there, mint state half-point grades can really light up your portfolio. An MS63 quarter might list at $15 to $20, while an MS65 could be $40 or more if it boasts strong luster and no contact marks. Now throw in a cameo finish, die cud, or exceptionally deep strike, and you're easily in the $100 to $200 range, even for MS64 specimens. Auction records for extraordinary 1967 quarters tell the story of true rarity. In 2024, a PCGS MS67 DCM circulation strike hammered down for $1,250 at a major East Coast auction house. That coin exhibited mirror-like fields, razor-sharp devices, and pristine rims, essentially the holy grail of accidental circulation-proof coins. Not far behind, an MS-66 example with a prominent cud beneath the eagle's talon reached $800. Those records underscore how condition and error combine to create collecting magic, even when the base date seems utterly ordinary. Beyond technical features, 1967 quarters have a few anecdotes worth sharing. One collector recounts finding an MS-66 cameo-like quarter stuck in the upholstery of a 1968 Ford Mustang he purchased second-hand. The seller didn't realize the coin's split finish and handed it over as loose change. The collector still shakes his head at the thought of passing up a find that later earned 5 figures in graded value, only to be remembered as the Mustang quarter in his own inventory. Another tale involves a trip to a small-town diner in Iowa, where the cashier accidentally handed a die-cut quarter as part of the change. The collector kept it tucked inside a menu and later sent it off for grading. It returned as MS-65 with the error, doubling his initial estimation of $75 to a final sale price of $165. It's also worth noting that the 1967 quarter's metal composition, outer layers of 75% copper, 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, renders it resistant to corrosion but prone to surface marks. That means mid-grade examples often show a jumble of bag marks and rim dings from high-speed minting and post-mint handling. Preservation is key. If you spot a quarter with full cartwheel, the bright flash when the coin tilts under light, and no distracting abrasions, snatch it up. Those gems defy the decade's wear and tear, and preserve the original luster that commands top dollar. Condition variations also create a wide collecting spectrum. In well-worn grades G4 to VG8, the coin's fine details, hair strands on Washington, lettering on the rim, flatten out, chasing values down to $1 or $2. In fine to very fine, F12 to VF30, you regain major design elements but still see wear. These coins hover around $2 to $5 a piece unless an error is present. AU grades retain traces of luster on high points and attract serious interest at $8 to $12 for pedigreed pieces. MS grades, especially from MS-63 upward, are where the collector community stakes its claim. Those are the quarters fit for display or investment, not pocket change. One hidden factor: die state progression. Early strikes from freshly polished dies exhibit sharper details than later strikes once the dies wear down. Among dedicated specialists, early date runs refer not just to the year itself, but to the strike order within the production batch. Some graders look for uniquely crisp hairlines on Washington, or the first faint striations in the foliage beneath the eagle. If you're lucky enough to identify one of those early die state specimens, even at MS-62, you might see a modest bump in value over a later state MS-64, simply because it represents the die's freshest impressions. So if you've been sorting through jars of 1967 quarters, focus on examples with strong cartwheel shine, minimal bag marks, and any sign of cameo contrast or die cuts. Even without grading, you can spot the glossy Fields versus satin devices with a bright flashlight. That little test alone can transform a roll-searching weekend into a rewarding hunt. And remember, the 1967 quarter story isn't just about a common date. It's about rediscovering mint state beauty and subtle production quirks hidden beneath standard circulation. With that deep dive into the 1967 Washington quarter complete, from its clad composition and high-volume origins to cameo-like circulation proofs, die cuts, and collectible condition tiers, we're ready to flip one more corner of modern numismatics. Up next, we'll examine the 1978 quarter, another unassuming date that quietly boasts remarkable value when you know where to look. Moving from the era of clad silver experiments in the 1960s, let's roll forward to 1978 and uncover why that year's Washington quarter quietly commands attention in today's collector circles. By 1978, the mint had refined its processes and was producing coins in vast quantities, yet subtle variations and a handful of errors managed to slip through quality control, giving certain pieces remarkable collector appeal. This quarter stands out not because it dazzles at first glance, but because it rewards the patient eye with hidden clues to value. The 1978 Washington quarter emerged amid a period of political and sporting celebration. That year marked the first time the Senate adopted the modern committee system, and the first Big Red Machine World Series loss for the Cincinnati Reds. While those events played out elsewhere, at the Denver and Philadelphia Mint's presses churned out more than 550 million quarters combined. Philadelphia pieces bear no mint mark, while Denver issues display a small D beneath the wreath. The mass production of clad coinage. Outer layers of 75% copper, 25% nickel around a pure copper core. Mint most circulated coins show the familiar matte fields and devices. It's in the few that deviate from this norm that real treasure hides. Collectors prize two main varieties in 1978. The broadstruck error and the double die reverse. A broadstruck quarter occurs when a planchet expands improperly under the strain of the press, resulting in a slightly oversized coin with a missing or weakly defined outer rim. These broadstrikes measure about 25.5 millimeters across, compared to the standard 24.3 millimeters, and often display a flattened, almost pancake-like appearance. Denver produced only a handful of these, perhaps fewer than 50 surviving examples, making any circulated broadstrike a sought-after oddity. The doubled die reverse variety is arguably subtler but equally prized. The reverse design, the bald eagle landing with outstretched wings, shows doubling in the lettering, United States of America and quarter dollar, as well as in the eagle's feathers. Unlike textbook double dies from the 1950s, the 1978 errors are less pronounced, requiring magnification to spot the slight shadowing behind letters or the wing lines. When a quarter exhibits these doubled elements sharply, it elevates the coin from regular pocket change to a collector's gem. Current market values for these rarities vary by error type and condition. A broad-struck 1978 D quarter in average circulated grade, around VF20, might fetch $150 to $300, depending on the clarity of the broadstrike and remaining luster. Uncirculated broadstrikes in MS60 to MS62 grades command $400 to $600, while exceptionally well-preserved MS64 specimens can reach $1,000 or more at specialized error coin auctions. The record for a single broadstruck Denver half-dollar set hints at demand. A paired set of quarter and half broadstrikes from the same die earned $1,800 in 2022, implying individual quarters could cross the four-figure threshold in peak condition. Doubled die reverse quarters also hold strong value. In circulated grades, those with visible doubling on the reverse letters trade around $50 to $75. Move into about uncirculated AU50 territory, and prices climb to $100 to $150. Mint state coins graded MS63 or better often see $200 to $350, while top-tier MS65 examples have hammered at $500 plus. Leading the pack, an MS66 Plus doubled die reverse sold for $1,100 at a 2023 West Coast auction. Remarkable considering it surfaced only after a collector scrutinized thousands of rolls for anomalies in the lettering. Stories about these quarters enrich their appeal. One enthusiast recounts sorting through a box of unsearched circulation rolls bought at a coin shop and discovering a broad-struck 1978 P quarter glued to the inside of a greased cardboard roll. Its edges had fused to the paper, nearly obliterating the mint mark. After careful removal and grading at MS63BN Brown, the piece fetched $550. Another tale involves a father and son weekend hunt. The daughter found a doubled die reverse quarter in a carton of dealer bulk silver purchases, initially dismissing it as a strike weakness until her dad pointed out the faint shadowing in the lettering. That coin eventually sold for $225, becoming a cherished memento of their shared hobby, rather than just another profit. Beyond errors, the 1978 quarter also offers collectible interest in high-grade regular strikes. Typical circulated coins trade near face value, but once you cross into mint state grades, a typical MS63PQ, premium quality, example can bring $10 to $15. An MS65 graded at PCGS or NGC for pristine surfaces and strong luster might list at $40 to $50. For the seasoned collector, these high-grade white and brilliant specimens fill registry sets or serve as targets for registry competitions, which drive demand beyond simple error-driven premiums. Condition variations underscore the importance of close examination. In low grades, good G4 to very good VG8. The design details on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers are worn smooth, and values hover at $1 to $2. Fine F12 to very fine VF30. Coins show more detail and trade for $2 to $4 a piece unless afflicted by serious post-mint damage. AU coins, retaining light traces of original luster, command collector respect at $5 to $8. Mint states split by minute differences in strike quality and surface preservation create the most lucrative opportunities. MS64 coins with hairlines fully defined and unbroken rims can command $30, while MS65 and above see exponential growth in value. One hidden nuance involves the metallic sheen. Some 1978 quarters were struck late in the production run with slightly thinner nickel plating, yielding softer white fields that reveal underlying copper tones over time. These toned examples, displaying subtle rainbow hues or champagne gold patinas, often draw higher prices when toned attractively. A well-toned MS64 broadstruck quarter sold for $750 in 2024, proof that appeal and error combine to multiply a coin's allure. When hunting 1978 quarters, focus first on the rim width and die clarity. A broad-struck piece's extra millimeter of diameter jumps out under calipers, or even a ruler. For doubled dies, a loop held over united or quarter dollar will reveal doubling patterns, particularly on the A and R characters. Even without professional grading equipment, these simple checks can turn routine change inspection into a thrilling hunt. As the final flourish, consider the 1978 quarter a testament to how modern issues still reward curiosity. Its story spans from mid-level circulation strike to high-end error treasure, and condition remains the ultimate arbiter of value. Whether you're well-versed in error coin collecting or simply curious about what lurks in your pocket change, the 1978 quarter offers a fitting conclusion to our trio of featured Washington quarters. It's proof that even in the late 20th century, minting anomalies and subtle production quirks carry genuine numismatic weight. So dust off those coin rolls, sharpen your loupe, and prepare to spot the next roadside gem waiting to reveal its secret and potential payday in a humble 1978 quarter.